Craveable Podcast, Season 2, Episode 5, Eating with the Seasons.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, and welcome to the Craveable Podcast, where real matters. We are your hosts, Ben and Katie, and this show is brought to you by Fossil Farms. So what are we talking about today, Ben?
Probably a really good topic for both of us because we're coming into a season that gets you and I outdoors more than any other time of the year. And that's because we're moving into spring. It's raining cats and dogs outside, which is a sign that it's March, my birthday month. Fits my personality. I absolutely love it. But what's going to be popping out of the ground that you and I both love and that every foodie who's listening to this is also dying for May to see popping?
Yeah, well, you're really jumping right in.
Yeah.
The answer is ramps. But yeah, this episode is called Eating with the Seasons. So kind of going to talk not specifically just about spring, but, eating seasonally and what kind of things we naturally want to cook, like to cook, how we like to cook, things like that. But yeah, let's just dive right in. Ramps, the wild leek.
Yeah, the wild leek, wild onion.
Nature's darling.
Bärlauch. I mean, there's a couple different ones across the world. In the US, they have Ramsons, and I love them, but it kind of begs the question of how everybody's diet changes when the seasons change. I don't know if that's the case for most people unless you do a lot of home cooking. I noticed it already by me. I'm sure you're noticing it in your kitchen, but like for me, I went from being like, all right, I'm eating protein and a starch or like stewing something and eating a lot of stews to basically being like, all right, the beach is around the corner a couple months. So we're having salmon and salad. And I had a rice cake with jelly on it yesterday as dessert. It's actually really good.
Yes, no, definitely. I mean, when it's super cold out, I feel like all of us,
Eat
you
heavy.
kind of want something hearty, heavy, stick to your ribs. And a lot of those things are, like stews and braised meats and those type of things that are often thought of as that like hearty, heavy kind of stick to your ribs. The way that a lot of those are prepared is with your low and slow, like your slow roasting, braising, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
set it and forget it.
Slow cooker. So a lot of times in the colder months, those are also the cooking methods that we lend ourselves to. And also like when it's August, I'm sure you don't want any extra degrees of heat added to your kitchen emanating
brutal
from your slow cooker or your oven that's on for 4 hours.
Yeah. My window unit's going to have to do extra work just to cool down the apartment, and it doesn't want to. But you actually did something recently coming out of the winter that I was thinking maybe I'll do a little bit more in the summer as something healthy. And you did that really fantastic bison stew that you did the
I
other day.
copied Chef Bianca. It was one Friday. You guys know Chef Bianca. It was one Friday, and it was supposed to snow over the weekend. And I don't know why I asked her. I was in the kitchen, and I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing this weekend? She was like, oh, I'm going to make bison stew. And I was like, I am also.
Put you in the mood, right? Because you knew the weather. Like, you knew what she was doing. You got excited from her. You know the weather's coming in. You're like, I want something warm and cozy. It's going to fill my stomach. And it just fits the bill for that so much so. I didn't do enough of it for this winter, in my opinion.
That was all I did. Like, it's funny. I hope one day, Kathleen, I hope I make you watch this. My boyfriend's sister loves stew. And like particularly my stew. Thank you. And
You're welcome.
Yeah. And I made a beef stew for her a couple years ago. And when it started to get cold this year, she's like, I really want stew. Really trying to have some stew. And then she didn't end up being able to come over for the bison stew. And I'm definitely not making stew again.
That's
it's
okay.
Getting warm and gross.
She can ask her brother how it was.
Yeah, she can. It was phenomenal, actually. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the spring eating. And I know you mentioned, I don't know if when you said if you were talking about me specifically or our lovely listeners and viewers, but something I want to definitely do more of. And I can't remember what episode we talked about this in, but I think it was recently, like shopping at your farmer's market.
Oh, yeah. Let's start there.
Like it's,
I'm excited.
Yes, it's often easier for me to just stop at the grocery store that I drive past on the way home rather than, drag myself off the couch on a Sunday morning to walk, across the street.
Yeah, yours is right in town.
Excuses. But it's super good. I think it's hard for me to always be mindful of how much better it is for like everything we talk about, the sustainability and the supporting of local, how do we support these things that are struggling or smaller or, taking a back seat to big ag
Right.
or whatever the case may be. And that's a great way to do it.
Reduce your carbon footprint, like get something locally, walk outside of your apartment building across the street instead of driving.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But no, I'm excited. And actually something I've been bad at is that there is a winter farmer's market in my town in a slightly different location, not across the street. This would require me driving a vehicle, and I haven't gone once, and I didn't go last year, and I feel really bad about it.
What do they have? Carrots
I
and
don't
ice?
know. I don't. Frozen fruit. No, I
It's
don't know
always
what they
tough.
have.
The seasonal conversation is always tough because people are like, oh, winter, I love braising and stuff. And it's like, honestly, like carrots, parsnips, and meat. And that's
Yeah.
it.
That's true. I mean, and then you can, like you with your clementines. You're just like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm
it's-
gonna stop by
that's-
these. They're out of season.
They are out of season. That's what's so funny is like we live in a great country as far as access to produce, in that we get all of this awesome citrus in the winter from Florida.
Yeah.
So the clementines, if you didn't know, pay attention as you eat them. I get a ton. I get the family pack of like 30 clementines at a time. And in the heart of winter, like going into December, they're really sweet. They have a great flavor to them. And then now they almost have like a grapefruity kind of bitterness to them. They're a little bit drier and they're definitely way less sweet than they are in the beginning of the year. They're not as orange. They have like the green tips to them. And that's the season closing.
But for sure, I mean, I will say the bag that I bought this week,
That was a good bag.
they're very orange on the outside, but no, that first clementine I opened was like half of it was hard. It was terrible.
Mine was good.
But I picked you a good one.
Oh.
But yes, that is, and it's the same for grapefruits because I am a grapefruit enthusiast, as
Oh, yeah.
we know, and it's the same. Like when I don't buy them that often because they're kind of a hassle to eat, but
Yeah.
when I see them in the store, I'm like, oh man, but it's winter. I should really be hitting off these grapefruits.
You really should
And
be.
they're
It's
so
it's
good.
so interesting because it kind of flies in the face of what we would think. But I mean, if it's in season, you should be using it. And that kind of begs the question too. What's more important to you, right? It's an individual opinion. Would you rather be eating things across the country that are seasonal and that you have access to as they come in? Or are you like hyper local and hyper focused in that you're not eating things that aren't coming within 150 miles of where you live, what we would call like the regional footprint for pulling in produce. Because then up here in New Jersey, what are we going to actually have and enjoy? So like seasonal eating to me is like, yes, I'm eating in the season and thematically I'm thinking of stews and braises, but I'm actually purchasing my produce based on the season. I think that's a strong no with an asterisk on it though. So not a strong
That was
no
a really
at all.
that was a really long question. I literally
Yeah, so there's
want
multiple
you to
parts,
say
and I
no
want you
to.
to. So that's the thing. It's like when we eat seasonally.
That
Like,
was
yeah,
a
you
poor
want
question.
to go, want to
This or
go.
that.
Who knows what the
You
question
said
is?
no.
What we're trying to do is find out the truth.
Mm.
And I wonder to myself, am I really going to change that much when the market comes up? And I probably eat significantly more fresh produce because I'm like inspired at the market. But I'm not like going to the grocery store. I'm like inspired by the row of bell peppers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I think once in a previous episode you said something to the effect of like, what gets you inspired at the grocery store? And I was like, nothing. I decide what I want to buy, and then I go there and buy it.
Packaged goods for some reason get me excited at
Oh.
the grocery store. Like if Wegmans
Snacks.
sets up a nice display, I'm like, oh, that's a quaint little idea, but I don't
Mhm.
need 40 cookies.
No, but I'm kind of, I guess, agreeing with you because still we haven't even determined what that question was. But I think I'm agreeing with you because I would love if I was hyper local, this and that. It's never gonna happen. I'm sorry. It's bad. I'm bad.
It's hard to do. It
it's
involves a lot of
difficult.
self-sacrifice.
I mean, it's hard. We all have busy lives, and it's like I just need these potatoes tonight, and the farmer's market is not open on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, and you're
what
like,
do
these
I do?
potatoes they're winter food, right? But we know the ones in the grocery store have been
Not even grown in this country.
well, if they weren't grown in this country, they're also still from a year ago. Because the ones grown in this country are put into a chamber and then gassed and kept on hold for a year before they end up in the market. Same with your apples, people. So
That's lovely.
I eat a lot of apples this time of year. You see me getting those Wegmans Honey Crisp all the time. That is
Late.
not seasonal eating.
Late for your apples. It's late for your apples.
We're months too
yeah,
late
it's
for
not.
it.
It's not fall.
No, so I mean, there's some things that I'll eat year round, and that's definitely the clementines and the apples. But then when the spring rolling around, I mean, you and I go foraging a lot. We love tramping in the woods, getting our boots dirty, our fingers dirty.
As you know, I don't own boots, but that's fine. That we can speak.
Yeah, you're the only person I know that.
I wear my old running sneakers and I
it works.
my ankle every time.
Shoes you got, but we have a couple ramp spots that we go to, and that like gets me excited because I love that kind of oniony, garlicky flavor that they have. And then the mushrooms are going to be popping. I know you don't go foraging nearly as much for mushrooms as I do.
I've never been able to find them. I don't care anymore. Yeah. I've given up.
But those are great to just, I mean, even just sauteing a little bit of fresh veg and then doing a protein and moving into this time of year. I mean, I'm probably going to be looking at elk and venison, not to tie this too much into what we literally do day to day, but I need to get another leg into my fridge and break it down and have something to work off of. Because for me, then I have that like light protein, right?
Yeah, I mean it's
like fish and like a light red meat is what I'm going for. Like I mean, that's almost in my season. I'm like, oh, I'm eating lighter in the spring.
Yeah, no, I mean, but it's definitely true. And I feel like just kind of to rewind a bit. I mean, ramps are super popular now, so most people probably know what they are. But like we said, it's a wild leek. It's got an oniony, garlicky cross flavor, and what makes them so cool and why we're so jazzed about them is that it's almost impossible to cultivate them. So there's no like ramp farms. It's for whatever reason. I think partly because I gotta retouch up.
It's like how they grow.
I think it's they like their conditions to be so specific, so specific. It seems strange that we wouldn't be able to replicate that, but regardless, they really can't be commercially grown, and so they've become very popular. Oh, and of course, probably the even more important part is that they're only in season for like a month tops.
Yeah, maybe 6 weeks, maybe.
And I mean, it depends on the weather. You know, at the tail end, in the beginning of that season, you know, I see them popping up, and the leaves are quite little. You know, and the bigger the leaf, the kind of bigger the stem, and
so they say.
So they say. It's true. I'm speaking from experience. But no, and then, you know, you get like a week or two of this like beautiful peak, you know, fully grown ramps.
Yeah, like 12 to 14 inch leaves, really big.
And then, you know, towards the tail end, I come upon the patch and the leaves are like yellow because they're like, oh, I'm sunburned. And, you know, they're just ready to and when you start to get those warm days, you know, ramps like a little shady, you can see like.
Oh, they will immediately.
Oh, yeah, the areas where the sun.
Because the leaves are like spinach.
They're
very literally will.
Fragile. And also, for any ramp enthusiasts watching, I do not take the roots. I do not.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of not taking the roots because, and that's part of the reason they're hard to grow in my mind, is because when they split, like you have to split the root and cut it, and that's how you propagate them. I actually don't know how they propagate in the wild since they're not dropping seeds.
I don't know, but what I do know is that, and at least this was in my foraging book, which is Foraging in the Northeast. It's a great book. Forgot the name of the author. Haven't read it in a while. But if you leave the roots, that same individual ramp plant will regrow the next season. So what I do, and I think I take more than you do, honestly. I think we discovered that last year. But I will take my pocket knife and I'll kind of just feel, you know, where the root is at the base of the soil. And then I kind of just stick the pocket knife down like half an inch and just kind of slice crossways. So I've been doing it long enough that I never pull up the root. Yeah. And I think some people I've had some people say, oh, you shouldn't even take that much. But from my reading and knowledge and understanding, as long as you leave that full root system in the ground, that exact same plant will regrow next year. Now, there's people that go out there and just pull them all up. Those are not going to regrow.
Yeah, don't pull the roots, please. And if you post on Instagram, I'm going to call you out about it.
And don't take more than, I think it's like 20% of any single patch. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, which could be a lot for some big patches. Take literally exactly what you need. Maybe a little bit for whatever ramp pest that you're putting in the freezer, but otherwise leave it. If you miss the season, you miss the season. I think that's kind of the beauty in the seasonal eating, that it is a treat. It pops up. It's not going to be anywhere. It doesn't propagate anywhere. You can't buy it at the store. It's sort of like that with the pawpaws that we see in the summer.
Right.
And that's kind of across the country is the only tropical fruit that grows in North America indigenously. And yeah, they're pretty good. I wouldn't say I don't love pawpaws.
I think they're good.
But it's a unique thing that you literally wouldn't be able to get otherwise. And that's like we had the conversation I was showing you yesterday because my dad went to a tasting. He lives in Germany.
Oh, right, yes.
And they did something with like an Italian or rather like something from the Levant, the Mediterranean, this green that grows along the ocean. And it's like really salty. So it's not salty. It's very similar to a sea bean that it
I was
pulls a
gonna
lot
say,
of
is it a sea
soil,
bean?
a lot of salt out of the soil, but then itself tastes just like spinach, but it's really
Sea
long and
beans are a
thin
little
like
salty.
spaghetti. The sea beans are salty, but
Yeah.
this isn't salty. So
And
that's
it's
really the
it's a
difference.
leaf, like leaf type green.
Yeah, like a leaf type green. It has like a
Interesting.
little prong at the bottom and it splits off into 4 thin leaves. And then you toss it with spaghetti. It's like the same
Where'd you
length.
say this grows?
It's
Greece?
along the Mediterranean.
No,
And I was just like, I've never heard of this thing before.
no.
I'm inundated with food all day. And I
Yeah.
get a text from my dad of this like seasonal Mediterranean plant. I'm like, I don't even know if I'll ever get the chance to try it, but I
Well.
want to. Like now I'm like, oh, like here's a goal that I can have to in the season in the right country.
Yeah.
And that,
That last
as you
bit
can
is
tell, gets me
challenging.
like really jazzed though. Where
Yeah, I
you're like,
mean,
oh, something new, something to go out and discover. And that's why the farmer's market is where it's at. You go in and you're
Yeah.
like, all right, like, yeah, I love me a pepperoni roll and all the other stuff from the Italian bakery.
How do you know about that bread that I buy every week in the summer?
I wonder, you're probably the same. Is it the Vacchiano Farms that comes to you?
No,
Not
it's like
important.
a mozzarella pepperoni bread. It's like it's
I
insane.
might be getting the
It's
same
so
one.
good, so good.
But going in and just being like, oh, heirlooms are in. Like now I can go do BLTs. So I have to
Barking
stop
up
with
the
the
wrong
sourdough
tree.
lady. You know what I mean? Yeah, you don't like raw tomatoes. Weirdo.
Yeah, barking up the wrong tree there.
But that obviously has me like super excited for those things coming out. Then the early
That's
spring
very
is great too, because the berries will come out, the strawberries and things like
Early
that are coming
spring?
from the farmers. Well, that's from Southern farms coming up to us
okay,
too.
okay.
So in a way, like the season is so long because we have such a big growing window from the bottom of Florida to up here or all the way up to Massachusetts where things are growing year round.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. My mom has a pretty prolific garden, and I remember a couple of years ago. Every year the different things perform differently. It's like, oh, this year the blueberries weren't great, or this year I have so many apples, I don't even know what to do with them.
Yeah.
But one year, a couple of years ago, and you might remember this because I think I brought some in. I went to visit her, and it was like fall, like mid fall. It was way too late in the year for anyone to be thinking about berries, right? She's in Massachusetts, so it's colder. And she sent me home with a pint of the most delicious raspberries. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah,
Where did
blew
these
my
come
mind. I
from?
remember seeing that and being like, where the hell?
It was like late October. And she was like, oh, these are my like my like fall or winter raspberries. I was like, you're what? It exists? And apparently there's a specific breed of raspberry plant that fruits later and longer into the year. But I'm up there like, Mom, it's cold outside. And they were like beautiful. Yeah, I brought them in.
Yeah.
They're like beautiful, perfect. They weren't mushy. They weren't rotted. They were like peak harvest. And that was very interesting to me. So, it can vary.
Eating
with plants.
raspberries in the late fall is just wild. to me.
Homegrown raspberries.
So it
yeah.
also begs the question. I mean, what a season to you might change literally depending on where you live and what you have access to. I mean,
For
if you're
sure.
totally ignorant to something that grows in your area at a certain time, you might just be
Well-
like, no, like, it's the winter. I can only have carrots. I can't have fresh raspberries. Little did you know.
Well, true. But you know what I just thought that's actually pretty interesting is, we're here in the Northeast, so we feel for the most part each one of the 4 seasons.
Yeah,
But
we actually have seasons.
yeah, but what I think is super interesting is that there's actually a lot of areas of this country that don't. You know what I mean? So like
Phoenix, Arizona.
yeah, I mean like parts of Florida, like when it's pretty much that one climate all year round.
Seattle.
Yeah, I mean there's not
Rain or
much
sun.
variance in. I can't imagine there's much variance in what's being produced and grown and
Right.
available in nature. So that's an interesting part of this conversation, I think, too.
Yeah, seasonal eating for us is so different.
I mean, I
because
didn't
of the
even think of
existence
that until
seasonal.
just now. Like we're having this whole conversation about it. It's like there's places where it's just one season.
Yeah, there's just
It's
one
just
season.
one season. Like
Or like there's the joke, right? Like let's say you live in Pennsylvania, you have 2 seasons, you have summer and construction, or
That's
vice
funny.
versa, winter and construction.
That's
whatever.
funny. I've not heard that one. But no, I am excited for the farmers market. I think it's a great way to eat seasonally. And one of my favorite parts about it is the prices. I mean, it is cheap. Like I will buy. I don't want to go so far as to say I buy produce I don't need. Like I don't buy things and then let them rot.
I do by accident.
But but I will buy things. I'm like, do I need this entire basket of peaches? I will have to eat them very quickly, but it's $4. So yeah, I
I might as
need
well,
this
yeah.
giant basket of peaches. and like last year I think I got a whole watermelon for like, I don't know,
Like $7 or
no, like $2 or $3, like something insane that I was like, well, we need to have this
more water
watermelon.
than melon.
But it's true actually. But it's like these deals are. I mean, some things like my farmer's market. There's a really good soup vendor, and it's all frozen soups, and they're all really expensive but really good. But
Yeah.
like, I don't really buy it because I don't need the soup, right? And I don't
Yeah.
need to spend $20 on a quart of soup.
What?
It's like, I don't even want to. I don't want to name
Let's
names here.
not.
But no, like the produce vendors are amazing, and it's like this stuff is so good and fresh, and I mean, especially when it's a nice day out. My market is right behind Dunkin' Donuts. Get
There's
yourself
something
an
about
iced
it.
coffee.
And now the
stroll
canvas
around.
bags are so in. You get a little canvas
Canvas
tote with
bags
you.
are in.
Short shorts, sandals on.
Canvas bags are in.
God, I love that. Can't wait to put on some Birkenstocks.
Oh, that's classic, Ben. But yeah, I again, kind of going back. I'm with you. I'm excited to not. I mean, we can cook whatever we want and eat whatever we want whenever we want. But I'm definitely not stepping back into like, let me make some stew. I'm
Yeah, I'm not doing
very
that.
over that.
Maybe a pork shoulder that I'd like portion out once I braise it down, but even then, that's like a whole thing. Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit more
That's like
thematic.
having tacos.
But protein-wise, what do you change up? Because I know you've been doing some meal prep, and I feel like I've been kind of focused too much on like chicken and salmon, which is boring.
Yeah, I mean,
Me to death.
I'll be honest, I don't really change my protein, the actual proteins themselves much throughout the year. I might change the cut. I'm not buying bison stew meat in July. But I don't change my proteins much. I mean, I don't eat fish as often as I'd like, being that I'm the only one in my house who can have it. So I don't eat fish as often as I'd like, but definitely a lot of chicken. And then, like when it can be just a regular night. I was going to say when you want like a fun dinner, we'll be like, all right, this is the night we're bringing home milk medallions or, whatever, bison strip steaks. I had
That sounds really good.
those bison fillets that I made on Valentine's Day. Insane.
Those things are ridiculous.
Insane. I overcooked them. Not by a lot, all right, but I overcooked them, and it was just like
We need receipts. We'll post a picture.
the
with this episode.
tenderness level was surreal. I mean, those were what a treat. Like those were awesome.
That's a good point. Maybe I'll be looking at a lot more bison coming into this time of year too, because I was looking at the elk, but I find that like some of the bison cuts can, like the middle meats are obviously a little bit pricey, and the other cuts sometimes you just don't want to deal with a flank steak, like or those sirloins or something like that. But I'll probably end up getting an elk leg.
You gotta.
We have those elk short ribs
out.
now too for the summer. I mean, once we get into grilling season, all I'll complain about is not having a grill and having to go to someone's house to mark things up.
You've
but
done
I
that
can't
on
wait.
this podcast before, so
You know what I was thinking about when I was at the store the other day, dear listeners? How feasible is it to grill indoors over charcoal? It's pretty feasible. Just so you know, if you really think about it, it's actually very
0%
feasible
feasibility.
because you can do it in the bathtub. That will
What are you
protect
saying?
the floor from
What
hot
are you
coals.
saying right now?
I wouldn't recommend this. Is not a recommendation. I'm not a doctor, but I mean, even if you just have like a small Weber grill on a table with something underneath it, I mean, I should be able to grill inside with the windows open and everything pulls
No.
out, right?
No.
No? Put your comments down below. But here's how deadly serious I am about wanting a grill. It is so expensive in New Jersey to consider moving. My rent's too good in the spot I'm at. I just want a grill because then I feel like if I had a grill, I would eat in the season so much more because I'd be just doing fresh veg on the grill,
I don't like
some
grilling.
lean protein, call it a
grill.
day. No, it's so great.
I never grill.
You
I
like
have
grilling.
We've talked.
So
really
when
talked about this in the podcast before.
summer eating, let's talk about your summer eating habits and how you don't grill anything.
I don't want to
'Cause
walk
it's
out
annoying.
there. I don't want to walk out there. We have
You have
these
a
two
beautiful
gorgeous
patio.
grills. They're
Yeah,
like
you
they're
have a
like
gorgeous apartment building you're in.
this big. They're huge. I don't like.
You're in a modern
out there.
apartment building. I'm in one that was a bomb shelter. Can I come over and use your grill? You're gonna say yes. It's
We
never
talked
gonna
about this
happen.
already last season, and the answer is still yes. You can use the grill. You
It's
can
way
even
too
let
far
yourself
away.
in. I mean, you just gotta go in.
Jump over the fence.
Basically, yeah. But no, I don't feel like it. I mean, I got to deal with I don't know. I've never
There
been
is
big
some
into
laziness
grilling.
in the summer where I'm like, it's so nice out. I don't want to be bothered to be in the kitchen that
Cast
much.
iron,
What
just
can I do
cast
quickly?
iron, boop, 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 simmer, whatever, saute, boil, then done.
There's nothing better than the
Wow,
sound
what a
of
picture
a
of
steak,
laziness.
a steak hitting a cast iron pan, right? And it goes boop, boop, boop. Sound of a Hot sizzle.
I just made myself sound like someone who has no idea how to prepare.
Right. And you do, but that's okay.
No, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I do love winter. You know, and I always am
I love
a little
getting fat.
okay. I like
That's
the
just me.
weather. I like the snow. I always let it go a little begrudgingly, but once it gets warm-ish, like last Sunday when it was like almost 70 degrees, I was like, all right, I'm in it to win it. Tune it up. Get out of
Oh,
here,
geez.
March. No, it's like you have like that one taste of like a gorgeous day, and you're like, oh yes, outside
Yeah, Sunday
all
was
the time.
that.
And you know, then this happens. It's raining and disgusting and not
And you want to have
fun.
pasta again.
And I will.
Treat yourself. Why not?
I don't know. No reason.
You and your cavatappi.
Oh, I love cavatappi. Best pasta. Loki.
Is that seasonal eating? Do you change the type of pasta that you're eating depending on the season?
This is literally a path that we cannot go down right now.
How much time do we have left? We might be able to.
No, we're not.
We have
no.
more than enough time.
No.
I really like long pastas in the summer. Why? Why is that? Because there's so many fresh herbs and you can literally, you go get some fresh garlic, you get the fresh onions straight out of the ground, chop that up, just saute that on a little bit of butter, a little thin spaghetti. I love, not the angel hair, it's a little bit too thin. Thin spaghetti.
Capellini?
And then like not the capellini. We did look that up though. That's like the long, thin.
No, isn't the capellini like angel hair? Like between like spaghetti and angel hair? Or is capellini and angel hair the same thing?
I know they go by the number on the Barilla box.
The ini, the INI means little.
I don't know. That's Italian thing I was talking about, that green. It's called Barilla. That's what it is. And they have a different name for it too, something with an A. But I found that so fascinating. Because it's also named like the
green?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's also like the
pasta.
The pasta. Thank you. Yeah. The pasta. With a capital B.
Pasta la basta. So was that it? Butter and herbs out of the ground?
Yeah, and like all the fresh basil and fresh lemon and stuff like that. And you just do that over pasta. Oh my God. Fresh chili, something like that. It's so good and fresh. And like, you always think of like pasta as like heavy. Pasta can be super light and airy and delicious. And you have just like this bowl of freshness, right? And the pasta is just a carrier for fresh flavors that hit your palate. Sure. I love that.
Just going to throw it out there that the pasta itself is still a heavy item.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I still eat 500 grams at a time. It's like half a pound.
This is America.
Or a whole box.
Why are you using grams?
I don't know. Feeling classy today.
This has been fun. Well, I mean, I think that kind of wraps up for me. Does that wrap it up for you, Mr. Pasta?
Absolutely does. That's an outro.
This is a weird episode. Thank you guys so much for listening, watching. Definitely like and subscribe. Write some comments. Nice one.
Yeah, let us know what you eat in the season.
Let us know what you eat. Let us know if there's something you want us to talk about. If you think Ben should grill in his small apartment, we're open to all thoughts and feelings. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
3, 2, 1.